welcome back to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers, co-host Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Back in studio, Zachary Beach from Smart Real Estate Coach. If you didn't tune in a few weeks ago to see Zach's original appearance on the podcast, definitely check it out. Really, really awesome interview. We talked about all the different creative financing types that Zachary's doing for him and his business partner, along with some of his community members in all different states. Talked about free and clear projects with seller financing, some subject to deals, some lease options, really, really awesome stuff. And, you know, the best part about that first episode was really just diving into some case studies and kind of making, you know, something out of nothing, you know, a deal that might not have, you might not have seen a way to make money on it. And there's ways to make it. So, Zachary, thanks again for hopping on the show. Maybe just do a quick intro and then you can dive into a recent deal or really any deal that had changed your life. Could be a good deal, could be a bad deal.
For sure. No, I appreciate you guys. Zachary Beach, CEO, Smart Real Estate Coach. As I mentioned on the last podcast, about a decade ago, I was introduced to creative financing as I was a bartender and personal trainer. So shout out to the industry for sure. And I just got super burnt out. I was working really long nights, as you can imagine, and waking up really early to then train people. And eventually I just thought there had to be a better way. So I actually got introduced to creative financing by a business partner of mine, who's actually my father-in-law. And he got introduced to creative financing because he got crushed in 2008 when he had over 20 condo conversions going on in Providence, Rhode Island. So the only way he could get involved or back involved into real estate was through creative financing, or what we used to call it was buying and selling on terms. So then, you know, I was naive enough to jump into the business and believe that every seller out there that I worked with was interested in selling to me with little to no money down, not personally guaranteeing debt, and, you know, not going to banks. And, you know, that's where my real estate journey started. And, you know, I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you were naive and that you got to you got a good learning lesson. You skipped all the other BS. Why don't you tell us about a deal that changed your life over the past 10 years, or maybe it's a deal that's coming up?
I appreciate you guys asking me. So in the last podcast episode, we talked about a subject to deal. So although probably the biggest deal that changed my life was a subject to deal, which was my first deal I ever did, and it took me about 6 months to do it, I'm going to talk about a seller financing deal that I did. And the reason why I want to say that this was extremely impactful for me was because of how it affected the seller's life. And that's when I started to realize that this business wasn't just about buying real estate. This is about solving people's problems. This is about, you know, creating, you know, some good in the world. And of course we get the profit from it too, which was really cool. So I actually approached the seller. I was on the phone with him. He lived out in Indiana, but he had a second home, which was the family home in Connecticut. And what happened was his younger daughter passed away. And what they decided was they were never going back to that property in Connecticut because that was a place in which they always spent together as a family. So when I happened to approach him, he was an expired listing. So he was on the market with an agent at one point, but it failed to sell at the price that he was hoping to get. So when I approached him, I said, hey, I know you were on the market before. I'm assuming you still want to sell. Let me walk you through some different options on how we could potentially buy your property and at least get you the most amount of money. But more importantly, that way you're never going to have to come back out here again. And he actually flew out once to meet us after we structured the deal. And then for them on out, I just was in communication with them on the phone. So the way this deal worked out is we bought it for roughly $399 was the purchase price. Now, the state of Connecticut, the taxes are really high, property taxes. So for a $399 purchase price, the taxes ended up being like $750 a month. So really high, right? Really high. So if you were a normal investor, you would say, look, this probably isn't going to work because I can't just go do a long-term rental because taxes are going to eat at my cash flow. So as I was having a conversation with this seller, I said, hey, after doing some due diligence, what I'm realizing is that it's going to be really hard for us to make any money on a monthly basis. And he said, well, my property's free and clear, so I can adjust the payment accordingly. So as we were talking, he said, well, how does $1,000 a month work? And I was like, great. That number works perfect for me. So we're all in at $1,850. Now, the additional piece is because we are going to go acquire this property on seller financing, which means that in this assumption, the property was debt-free, which it was. We're going to close on it, and now the seller is going to be our bank. Now, this seller did not need a down payment, so they actually financed 100% of the property. We just paid closing costs. Then that $1,000 a month was principal only, so no interest on that. And then we had a 48-month balloon. So that's how the deal was structured. So we went ahead and so now we have a $399 price, $1,000 a month principal, and a 48-month balloon. So then most people would ask me like, okay, well, how are you going to cash out this thing in 48 months? All the rest of the terms are great. But what we do is we exit on rent to own. So we work with it's roughly 60 to 80% of the people out there that want to become homeowners and can't because of seasoning, meaning like they're self-employed and can't show, or they had a legitimate hiccup in their credit. We ended up selling this thing on rent to own to a self-employed business person. They actually made like concrete blocks and he did landscaping. He worked on some of the islands off of Connecticut. This gentleman came in. We sold it to him for $429,900, which in hindsight, we probably should have sold it for a heck of a lot more. He came in with $40,000 up front and then $40,000 over time. So he was in it for $80,000 for a non-refundable deposit. We were getting $1,000 a month principal pay down. So over the course of the term, it was $48,000 in principal pay down. And then we were making roughly $300 to $400 a month in cash flow. So after we added up all of what we would call our 3 paydays, so the non-refundable deposit, the cash flow, and the equity, we ended up making roughly $109,000 off of that deal over a 48-month term on a seller financing with 0% interest. So that's the deal. That was my first seller financing deal. Little to no money down, 0% interest rate. And that's when I discovered, look, these aren't going to be deals I'm going to do every day. But if I just do like 1 or 2 of these a year, that was going to drastically change it. And it certainly did and really created, some really great future deals out of it as well.
Well, it teaches you to be creative, like hence the word creative finance. It teaches you how to be creative because not every deal is going to be cookie cutter and is going to be the same. And you got to get creative to make it work. Like, on a broad level, it was a seller finance deal on a free and clear property. But on a creative level, it was like no interest payments, only principal payments, 48-month, that much matched up, with the lease option with the end buyer. So yeah, there's a lot of ways there's endless ways to do it, right? There's endless ways to be creative to back into what the numbers could end up working and being.
For sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, these deals, as I said on the last podcast, this is just as much as a skill set as an investment strategy. It's just about asking the right questions, solving the right problems, because that's what we do on buying on terms. You're solving problems that the traditional market either can't solve or is choosing not to solve. And now you have all these sellers out there that need alternative options. And then you have this giant group of buyers that need alternative options. It's about providing that solution. And that's what ends up creating these profits.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I think if you open your eyes to it, you've been trying to figure out how to get in real estate, this is a good way to dip your toe because it simplifies a lot of the math, simplifies how much cash maybe you need in the deal. My last one to check off is doing a master lease. That's successful. That's the last one I need to check off the boxes, and then I'll hit all the creative ones as of today. Other than that, Zach, where's the best place people can find you on the internet? They want to learn more about what you're doing. They want to learn how to do this, or they just want to see what you do on an everyday basis.
For sure. First and foremost, I want to make sure you guys put a book in your hand so that way you can walk through all of our strategies, how we exit, but even more importantly, get to know who we are as people for sure. So I would go to wickedsmartbooks.com. That's wickedsmartbooks.com. We'll actually ship you out our first Amazon best-selling book, Real Estate on Your Terms. We'll send it directly to you along with some other goodies. And then if you're listening to this, you want to start immediately diving into our stuff, you can go to YouTube or smartrealestatecoach.com/YouTube. We have deal structure Sundays we've been doing for, I think we're on like 400 and something episodes now, where we literally break down all of these deals in which we either doing ourselves or in our community. So that's a great way to identify these types of deals, or you can find us on all the other social media platforms at Smart Real Estate Coach.
Yeah, that's we'll get all that in the show notes. You guys go back a few weeks. You can check out Zach's other show where we did case study a few other deals. And there's other links in those show notes as well. As you can see, Zach is just a real investor doing real things like the rest of us, so please give him a share. That's the best compliment we can give Zach. And we will catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.